Well, that line means so much to me. Find out why next on Alex Garrett Podcasting, where we wear that shoe proudly. And indeed we do, and indeed for the 29th year yesterday, and hold on a second, let me get my YouTube crew eyeballs here, there we go. For the 29th year, we once again said thank you to the healthcare heroes, those that continue to serve as nurses at the NICU unit, and that was very cool. And 29 years later, here we are. It's incredible to think. It's amazing that we're here. It's God's blessing that we're here. I firmly believe that. Now, what's also interesting is that it's my 29th year. So I'm in what some would say my prime, which is why I say there's no prime or reason to this podcast tonight. I don't really want to talk politics, and I don't really want to deal with what we could see at the debate tomorrow night. I don't. You know what I want to talk about? That this feels like an amazing year to grow this podcast, blog, vlog, whatever you want to say. So, as my friend Charlie would say, it's a contract year. And I'm not going to be in my prime, in my 29th year, last year in my 20s, jogging a third, jogging home, jogging a second. I'm going to be hustling into home through this podcast the best I can. And I really want your support and love the support I've gotten already. So thank you for that. Thank you for always being there. Friends, family, listeners, messengers, thank you. And now it's time to say, let's really kick this into high gear. I was going to say something about prime real estate because I feel like all in all, the podcasting, the vlogging, the blogging, it's like properties, Alex Garrett Properties. I'm not selling you the property. It's mine. But I would love you to come join it. I would love you to continue to help me grow this through my Medium site, alexgnyc.medium.com. Start there. WordPress, Alex Garrett blog.wordpress.com. I'm going to actually start typing these into the thing for you so you can get a more keen sense of what I'm talking about. And by the way, I hope that the video is going well. I see YouTube is telling me we don't have enough smooth action for it. That's okay. We're just going to keep on rolling with it. And what is my end goal of all of this? I don't know, but I just saw 29 in my prime as a time to say, let's not sit back. Let's not kick back. Let's not just keep going with the daily, maybe news updates I did and stuff like that. Let's just keep on the things that aren't trending but should be. That is my first thing. Keeping on things that aren't trending but should be. And but I do not want viewership. I do not want ratings. I do not want anything by doing something wacky and dumb and stupid and, jackass-ish. I want to do it through real conversation. I really do believe in 29 years that how many times have any of us in this community, disabled community, been said, yeah, you're an inspiration. You're great. You're this and the other. And that's where it kind of stops. Now, not for guys like Mike Myers and Eddie Delgado. Ed Delgado might be listening right now. No, they want to hear the thought process I'm going through. And that's one of my main goals. I don't want to be just a quote-unquote inspiration for getting up every day and living what I consider my regular life on a rollerblade. That's me. I want to be saying, hey, you know what? This kid, this guy, has a different outlook than many, and we should listen to him more. And you could say I like the sound of my own voice, but I also say I'm working hard to try and look at things from a perspective that really no one else is. And from 29 to 30, ending my 20s and going into the 30s, I would love nothing more than to really, really expand and utilize this prime year to do something and put this into prime viewing, if you will. And maybe you can help by simply hitting the subscribe button. The like button is great, but I feel like the like button's not enough these days. Subscribe, comment, interact, do what you got to do, and we can all be a team in this journey together. I don't ask for subscription a lot because, again, I think that should come naturally. I do throw out my email, alex.garrett21, Garrett 21 at yahoo.com. I do throw out my Instagram and Twitter, AlexG in NYC. But I don't really even ask for subscribers because I think that should come naturally. But when I woke up this morning as a 29-year-old, I was so driven to do this and grow this forever because I love what we've been building together here, what we've been building since the Sports Hour with Alex Garrett on WQMC Radio. And as Pulse Ultra Media, Ed Delgado said, subscribes, comments, and shares. And I just realized this morning, I can only do so much to grow this. I do have a base now, if you will. I do have a Instagram for this podcast. I do have something brewing that's not just me throwing on a camera and throwing on a microphone and saying, yeah, let's do this. People seem to be coming over. And so if you have friends that you want to say, hey, you know, Alex has some interesting thoughts, subscribe, comment, share. Liking is not enough anymore in today's society. A like really is to me, oh, cool, great, like. You know how great it was? Yeah, it was beautiful to get messages from people on Facebook, on the timeline. But you know what was really cool on my birthday, 29th, yesterday? Well, A, the fact that I'm here amidst the pandemic, amidst all the curveballs that 29 years has thrown, we're here. And that's special in and of itself. But on a social level, getting those text messages, hearing from people, not just on my wall, but in person and in text message and in phone calls, that meant more. Because it meant, yeah, well, we're personally reaching out and saying, you know what, thank God you're here. And sometimes it's good to hear that. It's good to hear that. And I think for anybody, they can attest to that. And Ed Delgado on his page, Plus Ultra Media, sorry, not Pulse, Plus Ultra Media on Spreaker, I highly recommend it. The Caramel Conservative. Eddie, I think we go back a few years now already. That's crazy to think how time has flown, but here we are in the midst of this presidential election. It's going to be a knockout, drag out. Now, I do say, I think, just like Twitter censoring post about Hunter Biden. It's so funny, right? Speaking of the election for a minute, it's so funny. We can hashtag Hunter Biden laptop, Hunter Biden emails, hashtag all of that. But you can't share the actual post article? Twitter, how does that make sense? You can say this hashtag and that hashtag, but you can't share the article by the post? But that was step one. Step two is now saying, hey, presidential candidates, you might have your mic cut off. Have you ever been in a presidential debate where a mic is cut off? That's a form of censorship. And it's really dangerous right now. It's really dangerous when we now say from a simple, app on the phone, censoring us, to now say a candidate that wants to run the country can't get his full thought out by the moderator who has the power to turn off the microphone. This is dangerous territory. And it's amazing, people maybe even laughing, oh, look, this is funny. They could cut Trump's mic off. I know I said a couple weeks ago how childish that debate seemed to be. But that's different than saying you can't speak at all. That's different than saying you don't have a voice in this fight. And we all know why they did it. I don't believe it was to mute Biden. They, put him in there because he's on the other side, but we know why. We know why because we saw why Twitter censored. It made Biden look bad. Now you're going to tell people, hey, look, you've got a presidential candidate. First time in history, we're going to mute their mic. What's next, people? What really is next? I was talking to that the other day. I said, do you think people are going to come in people's houses and kick them out if they vote a certain way? Literally come to their home. Who'd you vote for? All right, come with us. Is that what it's going to come down to? Tomorrow night will be history. It will be history in the sense that we may never see another year where a presidential candidate is censored on the podium. Literally, how is that okay? How is that okay? It's not in my book, and it shouldn't be in your book either. Just gets frustrating. And as I said before, the fact that this Hunter Biden thing was censored even for smaller accounts, that's telling even the average person you don't have a say right now. Really? Really, we don't have a say? Is that really what you want to tell us? So yes, I think the biggest say we have could be at the voting booth on November 3rd. Is probably so. But as I said before, the biggest say also is this idea of saying hello to those who may have voted not your way, but continuing that connection, that friendship, that family connection after November 3rd. I challenge you to do that. I'm bringing it up again on Spreaker and YouTube because I haven't said this on YouTube yet, but say hi on November 4th. That, to me, is the strongest vote. Because when you show a government of any kind that you're in solidarity with one another, that you won't let certain forces sow division as successfully, that you shut that down with simply staying connected with family and friends who disagree with you, that's how we win. We don't win by shutting out people. You know why? Because then that force that wants us to be split up wins. I know we're not, it might be controversial to say, I don't feel like we're the United States right now. Especially when you've got one area on the coast telling people, you can't come to a baseball game. That's not allowed. You can't go. You're in lockdown in California. You can't go anywhere. Yet Texas is saying, yes, come on in. Come watch the World Series. Come watch some baseball. Come watch the Cowboys. See the difference? And now we're going to see that difference of speech versus non-speech on the debate stage. And you know the crazy thing? I do find it bizarre. As bizarre as Trump's behavior was on the first debate, for Biden to ask for more limitations tomorrow night. What does he want? No speaking for Trump? Again, I don't want to sway your mind on this. because you have every right to vote who you're going to vote for. But just know, we've got more limitations more limitations and censorship of a presidential debate versus free and open and individualism and markets. That's what I feel like we're pitted up against. And it's disappointing. It's really disappointing. Because when in your lifetime have you ever seen anybody in Canada running for president be silenced like this? Be suspended on a social media account like this? How did we let this get too far? As in, how do we let them get from First Amendment to unconstitutional quarantine measures, in 2020 at these liberal states? Yes, I'm going to say it, that they're Democrat-run states. How do we get from that to that freedom to being literally now censored in a presidential debate? If you can answer me that, once I get my merchandise going, I'll get you a hat. Seriously, though, I really do want to start that too. And I want to finish my book. And I want to dig my heel in, because I don't have heels. I don't wear heels either, don't worry. But my heel will be dug in for this in the long run and in this podcast. And I was so fired up. I was hanging out with Michael Potter, Keith Potter, the Potter cousins who do this podcast on their own. They actually welcomed me on, which is very cool. Let me get you the name of their podcast. You should totally follow them. Next Guy Up Podcast is what it's called. Next Guy Up Podcast. Also was on The Neighbor Upstairs with my buddy, Lefty, who is actually a righty, but that you'll find out more. Neighbors Upstairs, they have me on. So I like going on different things, and it fires me up to continue my own stuff, my own podcasting. But 29, in my prime, and let's be honest, almost every episode, you don't know where this episode is going to go, right? Because I tend to wander off. Like, I love Radio Hope. I like Radio Hope. And I tend to go on a different tangents. And I'm going on one right now, and I don't really care. But this is a feeling I've not felt before. I've not felt compelled to say, come join me as forcefully right now. Because I've just wanted to let it come naturally. But if there's anything I'm learning as I turn 29 and into my 30s, you gotta ask for what you want. You want that girl to go out with you? You gotta ask her. Even if she says no, go for it. You want to, I don't know, you want to keep growing in your work? Gotta work on it yourself, but then ask for help along the way. And so I'm saying, if you like some of this stuff, and I don't mean this episode particularly, just keep scrolling. I would like to think I talk about a wide variety of things on this podcast. I write about different things on alexgarrettblog.wordpress.com. 2 R's, 2 T's. And let's grow Alex Garrett properties and see if they can't be virtually grown. I'm not going to be a property builder in New York. I'm not building skyscrapers, but I think here in 2020, a podcast skyscraper exists. Look at Joe Rogan. He's a podcast skyscraper. He's got millions of views and listeners. Now, that is a plateau, an apex, if you will, that I think we can only dream of reaching. Or is it a dream? Maybe it's not a dream. Maybe it's a reality. We could get there. But it's not by, I'm realizing, working it on our own. It's by reaching out and saying, hey, take a listen. Hey, share always. Share your own work always if you want to grow it. But then say, hey, if you like it yourself, share it also. Give the retweet. How many people, and this is why I love Ed Delgado and Mike Myers, they love to share when they're on other people's podcasts. Do you ever find that there's a real issue sometimes that you bring someone on and they don't want to share it? It's like, dude, cross promotion here. But there, don't be afraid to say, hey, guy or miss, if I have you on, would you mind sharing it back? Because, I'm going to share this on social media. Would you mind retweeting it? Would you mind sharing that you were on this podcast and see where it goes? And so, is it artificial? I guess that's my other fear. I feel like asking for things makes it more artificial because it's not naturally growing. It's like you have to push it out there. But over the last, it's an amazing thing, over the last few hours, 24 hours actually, when I think of how grateful I am to roll the streets of New York, to have a family behind me, to have love, family and all that, and support system behind me, asking isn't such a bad idea after all. Asking is natural as well. Asking is how you get places. And asking is how you do get more than thousands of followers on Instagram. The saying, you won't know if you don't ask, is a very true statement, I'm realizing. So here, let me do what I was going to do, which was share my sites on the page right now. Ironically enough, there's a bunch of skyscrapers on my WordPress. So it makes it look like these buildings are my property. They're not. But we're building. We're building. We are going to be, in this podcast evolution, we are going to be that on-demand voice for you. So just hit subscribe. I'm going to keep writing. And I'm going to keep just going with this. It's 29th year. This prime year says, what am I going to do with this prime year? Follow the Caramel Conservative on YouTube. I see he's listening there too. The Caramel Conservative. But now's the time to step this up. And you can always subscribe on Spreaker. And you can always subscribe on YouTube. But just a change in the last literally hours. Tell you why, I saw a picture of little me with buildings behind me. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. That's an interesting idea. Buildings behind me. It's like I almost built those things I didn't. I was 8 years old at the time. But then it was like, well, I have my own real estate. My own properties to grow and build with you. So let's do it. What are we waiting for? What am I waiting for? It's nice to have guest after guest and nice to podcast about different things that's going on in the nation today. But literally, what good is it if you don't have the confidence to then say, hey, you like this, you should share it. You should digest it. You should have at it. Meaning, listen is all you want. And then Dennis Prager, who was at Salem, said something very interesting. Like, liberals probably listen to me. They do listen to me. And so I'm wondering, either side, if there are Democrats that watch Republican stuff just for Oppo research. I guess there is. And conservatives that watch Democrat stuff for Oppo research. I guess there is. Yet it seems that the Democrats love to, well, not the normal moderate ones. I mean the out there ones love to pinpoint someone says out of context. That's always been the case. But then Republicans don't seem to do that as much. Or they're very accurate with the way they portray something. Now some say, well, those deep fakes and everything, but the deep fakes are either side. Come on now. But at the heart of it is podcasting a new form of research for the opponent, for those who disagree or agree. I really need to get Joe Rogan and pick his brain on how he got 1 million people. That millions of people. That's amazing. And it's a goal, and it's a path, and it's an encouragement. It's like, don't get discouraged. Because, the smallest accounts could lead to some big things, one way or another. And then again, who's to say we should consider anybody a small account? It's not, to me, I want to grow it, but it's the quality of the content too. Can you grow with the quality that you got? I think I'm ready to say I am. I think I'm ready to say the last 8 years and the last few years alone, there have been things about this that I'm very excited to share. And I'm willing to now say, subscribe, share, and comment. And let's be a family together. Let's grow together. Even if you disagree on the other side, let's team up. Let's use these platforms as the bridges. Because you know what? What we're seeing on our TV, that's not a bridge anymore. That's just a path of disarray and chaos that we don't need. And we can not compliment it, I would say. We can juxtapose it. We can be the other side of that. Say that, yeah, there is media that is willing to actually get along, actually find solutions for the everyday American. And I'm ready to help be a solution. Caramel Conservative is someone who wants to be a solution for people. Radio Hope, oh my gosh. The name itself, but the guy behind that, Mike Myers, he's as hopeful as ever, every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. And you should take his lead too. Gary Russin, Bob Huber, these different people that I've connected with in the community. Let's do this. Let's launch further. And by the time, by the time I'm 30, yeah, that's 5G. But by the time, I don't know, maybe midterms 2022 come around, it won't be the networks that we go to. It would be independents who think independently, who do look at the other resources day after day and time after time and say, hey, look what these people are writing while these others are writing this. This may sound weird. Truth is important, very much so. And you may believe one's writing the truth and one is not. But I think where the ultimate fallacy could be is choosing that one source. That ultimate fallacy is saying you can't decide what is true or not. We, Twitter, decide that. Really? No, you don't decide anything. You let us explore what's true and what's not. The fallacy is now becoming not being even given a choice. We must fight for that choice. It is what the founding fathers would want. Freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, freedom of religion, and freedom to be in America and not have your mic cut at a debate, presidential debate, and not have your choice of platform to be heard. We heard tonight Russia and Iran are behind election interference. Ratcliffe is saying that, DNI Director Ratcliffe. Well, we're seeing interference in our own home, too. And that's scary. And that will never go investigated by, I don't believe, a Biden administration. Should be. But more importantly, it won't be investigated by media. So let's do this. Say hi after November 4th. And then by election 2022, hold on. Yeah, that's the midterm. Yeah, that's the midterm because this is 2020. Election 2022, let's us be the independent voice for people. Let us embrace the technology. The Spreakers of the world, the YouTubes of the world. Yeah, YouTube does censor, but you know what? It also, thankfully, has kept my stuff up, I believe. And so let's work for that. Let us be the independent voice for people. Let us be the resources they turn to in election time. Let us be even the polling numbers, if you will. So say hi November 4th and make us the voice for 2021, 2022. Because by then, I think the internet, the technology is going to be so evolved that people will even be more on demand with things. Let's be their on demand home and say bye bye, as John McLaughlin would say. Love John McLaughlin and the McLaughlin Group. Wasn't he great? Bye bye. Fantastic. Love that guy. Miss him. I also miss Tim Russert. I think Russert was an even-keeled voice in Washington who died too young. Very, very young here. But if we don't have that third, fourth, fifth, sixth opinion, they used to say triple confirm at this point. They need like 12,000 confirmations of stories, it feels like. Now, I do give credit to the Washington Post. They do Pinocchios on their candidate. You know, they're supposed to be impartial, but they're not. On their candidates. But even writers of today are soaring at places like DC Examiner, Washington Times, Washington Free Beacon. That's where I would say they're pretty fair-minded. And if you blog, I'll have people follow your blog. And, you know, it's just, we've got to get it out there more than just the voice and the video. It's got to be in blogging as well. I didn't mean this to be a stump speech for new media and getting the word out for a bit, but here we are. It's time to take a stand and say this is the last election. We rely on all these talking heads on television and rely on you and me, the people on the ground in America, that yes, do say hi to those we disagree with, that yes, do grab a beer with those we disagree with, that yes, do date those we disagree with, that even marry those we disagree with. You know what I mean? The list goes on and on of what I see in real life versus what I see supposed to be real life. Remember that. That's what they are supposed to see. we're supposed to see that the city is being looted and rioted. Now, I will say New York City is not in good shape. It's empty still. However, the hardworking business owners, again, the you and me of the world, I don't care their politics. They're working their butts off. They're working their tooth and nail to say, how can we survive what this leadership is doing to us? To throw it in their face that we survived another lockdown. That's what they're really doing. They're throwing it in the face, saying, you can't bring us down. Those who survived the lockdown. Bring them on. There's such a need for other information that we can be the other. Where'd you hear about us? CNN, Fox News, other? I'll choose other. And I think it's right to call out both sides. CNN, Fox News, the mainstream media, you know, the main networks have been shown to really edit things too. I mean, CBS News, NBC News, all of them. So let's be the other in other choices and see where that goes. And if it leads you to us being Ed, Mike, Gary Russin, Spreaker podcasters, Apple podcasters that aren't even well known yet, then all the better. And how does it start? It starts by expanding the real estate that we've got in our sphere. It starts by saying, hey, you like what we see? Share it. You like what you see? Comment. You like what you see? Subscribe. 20. I'm in. This is the prime, baby. And I'm willing and able and blessed to share that prime with you, my friends, listeners, viewers. Let's do this. Have a great night. I'm Alex Garrett, and we'll talk to you very, very soon. Whew.